Welcome to ELT Gallery, a channel on language learning and teaching technology and linguistics. You are still following a series of videos on systemic functional grammar. And our topic now is transitivity, the mental, behavioral, and verbal processes. Now let's start. In this video, we are going to talk about the behavioral process, the mental process, which includes the perceptive mental process, the cognitive mental process, the decidorative mental process, and the emotive mental process. And then finally, we'll talk about the verbal process. In the discussion here, we will also talk about the participants in each of the process. Now, let's start with our discussion. We have the B and V, or the behavioral, mental, and verbal processes. I just wrote it for short. Here we have Yìchén, Chinese guy. And you know what he's looking at? Well, that's what he's looking at, a girl. When he sees the girl, he can say, wow. And wow here is an expression of what someone has in his mind as a reaction to an object. So here Yìchén says wow when he saw the girl. And here with the word wow, he does not want to communicate anything to anybody. This is just an expression of what he has in his mind. Wow. And then now he thinks, isn't that Vicky? Oh yes, sure, that's her. She looks gorgeous now. Okay, so that's what he has in his mind. And that's here Yìchén saw a girl. So this is a perceptive process. Yìchén saw a girl. He knows her, Vicky. So that's a cognitive process. Wow, now Vicky is very beautiful. So here he adores Vicky. That's an emotive process. And then he wants her. That's a decidorative process. So here we have a process which happens in Yìchén's mind. First, Yìchén saw a girl, and then he knows the girl. That's it, coming into his cognitive process. And then he adores the girl. He adores Vicky. And then after that, he wants her. Well, they have not met for a long time. He met her when he was just 10. That's a story. And then, hi Vicky, that's a saying. So, hi Vicky. Well, that's here Yìchén greeted Vicky. So here, hi Vicky, Yìchén greeted Vicky. That's what he says to Vicky when he met her for the first time after 10 years of not meeting her. Well, now here we have a behavioral process, a process which we do when we saw something, and we do that in a subconscious process. And then we have a mental process. That's a mental process which happens in Yìchén mind. And then finally, he says something. That's a verbal process. So in the interaction of Yìchén and Vicky here, we have the three processes. We have the behavioral process in where when Yìchén says, wow, that's just an expression, a surprise, wow, she looks gorgeous. And then we have the mental process when something comes to his mind, and we have the verbal process when he says something to her. Now let's talk about the behavioral process. The behavioral process is a process which shows an action which a participant does subconsciously. Generally, if we do this process, we do it in our subconscious process. Here we have like Brian snores loudly. So Brian here is not aware that he is snoring, of course, because he is sleeping. She screamed when she saw the accident. Again here, she screamed. So she is not aware of what she does or what she is doing. She screamed. And then Rita coughed a lot, but she never sighed. So coughing here, we do that in a subconsciously. And then we have Yìchén smile at me. So here, and that's what happens to Vicky's mind. She said, Yìchén smile at me. But here, Yìchén smile at me. The action of, or the process of smiling here is a behavioral process. This is a process which Yìchén does here. I never dreamed of meeting you. That's what Yìchén has in his mind. I never dreamed of meeting you. So here we have the participants of the process. We have the behavior. Here we have Brian and she and Rita and Yìchén and I here. They behave something and they do the action in a subconscious process or as a subconscious process. They do the action in a subconscious process. And then here we have manner. Loudly is a manner. And then we have matter. I never dreamed of meeting you. That's meeting you here is the matter. And then we have the Yìchén smile at me. That's also a matter. We have also time. So in a behavioral process, we always have a behavior. And then we have, maybe we have another participants, maybe we don't have any other participant. We just say Brian's node. That's, we only have the behavior. Okay, and that's a behavioral process. Now let's continue with the mental process. A mental process is a process which involves perception, emotion, cognition, or desire, which a participant undergoes or which comes to the participant's consciousness. So something which comes to the participant's consciousness. First we have the perception. Mary heard a greeting from a distance. So the greeting came to Mary. Mary heard a greeting from a distance. That comes to her perception. Fred saw the robbery. The robbery comes to Fred. So he saw the robbery. That's a perception. We have emotion. The second kind of mental process is emotion. Like in the statement really puzzled me. So puzzling, that makes me confused. The emotion. We have the emotion, the puzzle. The food pleases the guest. So here we have the guests who are pleased with the food. So this is also emotion. Then we have the third type of mental process. Here we have the cognition, like in Tom forgets her phone number. So he does not remember a phone number. That's too bad. So that's a cognition process. Forget, remember, believe, that's a cognition process. She's still thinking about the offer. Thinking here is about cognition. If you believe, if you think, if you remember, that's about cognition. Then number 4, we have desire. Here we have he hoped for a better grade. So hoping is a mental process. We don't do anything. We just hope. That's a process we have in our mind. We wish you a happy birthday. That's what my wish. We wish you a happy birthday. And that's what comes into my mind. That's my desire. We wish you a happy birthday. Let's talk about the participants. First, we have the sensor. It's Tom, she, he, and we in this page. Tom, she, he, and we. We also have the perceptions, or we have also emotion, like she loves me. She here is the sensor. Person who senses, the person who undergoes the mental process. And then we have the phenomenon here. Her phone number is a phenomenon. The offer, a better grade, and happy birthday. Those are phenomenon because they are not really affected by what the mental process is. They are not affected by the mental process. If you don't remember a phone number, then the phone number does not suffer or does not lose anything. It's not affected by the mental process. If you love Vicky, Vicky is not affected by the mental process. If you adore her, she is not affected by your adoration. So phenomenon is just a phenomenon. It's not affected by the mental process because the mental process is just something which comes into somebody's consciousness. Now let's talk more about the mental process. We have mental process is not an action or event. So in a mental process, we do not do anything. Mary heard a greeting from a distance, so Mary didn't do anything. The greeting just came to her. The statement really puzzled me. I got puzzled and I don't do anything. Just something comes into my mind and I was puzzled. Tom forgets her phone number and he hoped for a better grade. Here, Mary didn't do anything. What did Mary do? So we cannot ask what did Mary do or what happened to Mary or what did Tom do or what does Tom do or what happens to Tom. That's not the question to us because a mental process is not an action or an event. So this kind of question does not apply to a mental process. And then we also have metaphorical expressions for a mental process. We have like the picture of a girl caught my attention. So that's a perception. The picture of the girl caught my attention, but the girl didn't do anything. Just the picture does not do anything either. So the picture of the girl caught my attention. So here the perception comes into me. So my attention here, it's I'm the sensor here, and the picture of the girl is the phenomenon. So that's a metaphorical expressions for a perception. We also have the idea just flash into my mind. So something is flashing into my mind, coming to my mind, but coming to my cognition. That's not a material process. So the idea just flash into my mind. Flashing, catching here are not material process. They are not used to show a material process, but they are used to show a mental process. Now let's continue with the verbal process. The verbal process is the process of transferring verbal information or message. So there is a message, a transfer of information in a verbal process. Mary has told me the whole story. So the whole story is transferred to me. Mary says something and the story comes to me. He explained the theory to the students. So here we have explained the theory and the students. That's a verbal process. The audience praised me for my language. So the audience says something, it's about praising. The audience praised me for my language. The manager blamed the driver for the delay. So something is wrong and the manager probably says bad word to the driver, blaming him for the delay. So there is a verbal process in these sentences. So a verbal process involves the production of words or saying of sentences. Here we have the processes. We have the participants. We have the sayer like Mary, he, the audience, and the manager here. So those are the person who produces, who says something. And then we have the receiver here, me and the student. So Mary told me and he explained the theory to the students. These are the receiver of the whole story and the theory. And then we have the verb BH, the whole story and the theory. So the whole story is and the theory are what comes to me and to the students respectively. Then we have the fourth participants, the target. Here we have me and the driver. So the target of the praising here is me. Me, that's a target. And then when the manager blamed has the driver as a target. And then we have matter, my language, and the delay here. So he praised me for my language. That's the reason which prompts the audience to praise me. And then the delay here, and that's the cause of something which causes the manager to blame the driver. So those are the 5 participants which are involved directly or indirectly with the verbal process. Well, that's all. Thank you. See you in the next video.